All right, trombonist, composer, and all-around brass man, Wycliffe Gordon, an inaugural member of the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, is here to talk about being a member of that elite ensemble, as well as his online master classes and a bunch of other really cool stuff. I'm Brian Zimmerman. This is the Jazziz Last Call. All right. And as always, before we get into today's episode, I just wanted to let you know about a really cool album from ECM Records. This would be the newest by guitarist John Schofield. The new album is called Swallow Tales, and it is his leader debut on ECM Records, and it is a tribute to the pioneering electric bassist Steve Swallow. And Steve Swallow happens to be on this very disc, along with drummer Bill Stewart. It's a beautiful record. They recorded it old school in the studio, few takes, everybody sitting in a circle, just jamming, doing their thing. And yeah, it's a beautiful record. If you'd like to learn more, check out ecmrecords.com. Wanted to also let you know about our current issue, our summer 2020 issue, which is on newsstands now and has already mailed out to subscribers. So hopefully it's in your mailbox, or better yet, on your coffee table. This one is all about fusion. Got a nice cover story with Chick Corea in there. All of the content from this print issue is available as web articles on our website, jazziz.com, but you will need a digital subscription to read them. Fortunately, we're offering a special subscription rate for Jazziz Last Call viewers. For just 99 cents per month, for 3 months, you can unlock unlimited digital access, which means you can read all the web articles from this issue and previous print issues. Plus, we'll enroll you to receive our forthcoming print issue, which is our fall 2020 issue coming out in September. That one is all about the art of the album. So listening to albums, collecting albums, album cover art, producing albums, everything having to do with albums. Again, you subscribe for that trial offer now. You get the digital content available in this issue and all previous issues, plus a brand spanking new print issue come September. All right, as I mentioned, my guest is the wonderful Wycliffe Gordon. He was an inaugural member of the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, and before that, a veteran member of the Wynton Marsalis Septet. His most recent album is I Give You Love, which is a great follow-up to his 2016 Louis Armstrong tribute album, Hello Pops. He's also currently teaching an online masterclass right now, and he's going to be talking to us about all that and so much more. So please help me welcome to the last call, Mr. Wycliffe Gordon.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Wycliffe. Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. I know the world is crazy right now, and so we appreciate you taking the time to chat with us here for the last call. As viewers know, long-standing, if you can call this show long-standing, tradition here is to do a toast at the beginning of the show. This is the last call, after all. Drinking this, there you go. We got our cup of coffee going. We drink to someone, something, some place, some idea. So, Wycliffe, who are we toasting to with this glass?
Wow. Well, it's hard to just name one. It may be coffee, but it may have a little Bailey's in it. So we call that a grown folks latte.
I like it.
No, it's just coffee this morning. But I think I just want to toast my colleagues, the musicians, the ladies and gentlemen that, even though everything's been kind of put on hold now, that, traveling around the world and through their music and connections with folks, just make this world, a better place to live and make things easier to deal with. I was doing a master class, or just a talk last night, and we just talk about the effects of music. Like when folks come to a concert, they want to enjoy the music, but somehow the music removes all of it. As Art Blakey said, is washes off the stains of everyday life.
That's right.
And even if it's just for that one moment or that, during that concert, for a moment in the concert, just make to bring someone to a better place. I want to toast all the musicians that do that and continually do it. And even in the midst of COVID-19, it is so strange to have to make music and not being in the room with the musician, feeling the breath, the articulation, the dynamics, and because when you're in the studio, one person can make that happen, but to do it with a group of musicians is great. So I want to toast all the cats and the kittens that that do what we do all over the world to help everyone to look at the common denominators, the things we have in common,
That's
and
right.
just to become, you know, the best part of our humanity. So
Here's to them, the healing power of music, and the musicians, the frontline workers of the soul.
yes,
And
yes, that's great.
as Wycliffe Gordon mentioned, we are pre-taping this. It is the morning, so this is fake booze, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want you to get the wrong impression. Wycliffe, that was beautiful, man. Hey, I want to just check in with you. This is something like I do with all the musicians on the show. Just check in with you because times are tough indeed. Like you say, we're not able to play together. We're not able to record together. So how are you coping? What have you been up to?
I've actually been doing pretty great. This is the most time I've spent home and off the road in 30 years. And now I realize how much I don't get done because I'm traveling all the time. And so folks call, I miss it. But at the same time, I've grown to love this because I love playing, traveling, and all of those things. And when folks call me, they say, "Man, you must be getting cabin fever.
Yeah.
You must be going crazy." I'm like, "No, I'm not. Actually, I'm actually loving it because those things you miss by always being gone, always in a hotel, always checking in, checking out, and you come home and you kind of touch down and." For so many years, it's just like another stop. You call it home, but now it really feels like home. So I'm I'm loving it. I get a chance, even though we have to social distance, and
Right.
it's a sad situation that we've been thrown into this. But like we do as jazz musicians and creative people, I think we're going to find ways to come out of this better. I tell students all the time, we wake up every day trying to solve problems or trying to solve issues with music. How am I going to play over this C major 7 chord? How am I going to work on my range? How am I going to make something about my musical presentation better? And this is just another opportunity for the creative minds in and out of music to while
solve this
we're at a
problem.
standstill.
Yeah.
Yes,
To improvise in real time, solve problems. That's so
yes.
you think there will the other side of this, music could possibly benefit from this for a lot of reasons. Musicians being at home, that silver lining of being at home, from having to think creatively. You see music really kind of blooming at the end of this, huh?
I do. I mean,
Cool.
you enjoy the you have so much more of an appreciation for the sunshine when you've been in like a rainstorm or vice versa. So
Yeah.
this is somewhat of a storm, but I just think the music that's going to come from this, first of all, like the greatest music, and lots of things, while unfortunate, they kind of come from tragedies and they tell stories. And we're in a little bit of a tragedy, so there are going to be many stories told as they unfold.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think it's going to be beautiful when I get a chance to. I haven't played with another musician live since March 5th.
Wow.
And I mean, other than maybe a church service here or there, but there's no one in the church and we're 10 feet apart. And so that's not how we make music and that's not how we come together. But so I think when we do that again, the time that I saw a bass in the background. You play bass?
Yeah, well, no, you do not want to hear that. That's the world's most expensive prop. No, it's there. I'm a trumpet player. That's my main instrument.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so when we get a chance to sit next to each other and make music again, first of all, I think it's going to be a celebratory thing for the musicians. I was on the phone with the Boston Brass, and they live as far south as Miami, Florida, and as far north as Utah, and all 5 of them, none of them live in the same state. So it's difficult. And now that they're on, that we're all off. When we get on again, I think we're going to look forward to it. And I also think that a lot of our public that have gotten so used to being able to stream music. Now we have to do it. I think they're going to be hungry to go back into the concert hall, because while some of this technology is great, I think it's hurt some of the live audience participation. But I think I can guarantee that after this, folks are going to look forward to getting back into concert halls, jazz clubs, and I mean, I'm not in a rush to do
Right.
it.
You gotta be safe, right?
But
Right.
yeah, but the music that's going to come from it, I mean, music already heals. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah, I totally agree. You're right. With small ensemble playing and with jazz especially, there's so much communicated through the physical presence of musicians and of the audience. You know, you think of someone like a Monk or a Duke Ellington, their physicality, you could hear it in the music.
Yes.
And musicians on the bandstand feed off of that. So it's not the same to play through a computer screen
No,
and to listen through a computer screen. You're
Right.
right about that, man. Wycliffe, you are the kind of guy people, I think, know you and know your name, even if they don't know you. Principally because you are a founding member of the Jazz at Lincoln Center Orchestra, right?
Yes. I was one of, yes.
Yeah.
You can say that. Jazz at Lincoln Center.
I think back
started,
then it was the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra, right?
Yeah, it was the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra when I joined. But when I first started playing with Wynton, I think they started concerts in 1988. It became an entity, and I joined the band in 1989, and I played on some of those concerts with the likes of Britt Whitman and Russ, not Russ Arm, Roland Kirk, but Roland Hanna, and some of the members that actually played with Duke Ellington and Count Basie. And they were a member of that, to sit in the section next to Britt Whitman and to have Chuck Connor, who's the bass trombonist with Duke, to come up and, talk to me. I was kind of like a kid in the candy store, but also afraid, but all what I got a chance to witness. And then around 1990, 91, we did a tour. It was 91. And then Wynton decided to kind of disband the Septet in 1995 and to start to do the jazz and the Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra,
Right,
as it was called then, full time. And so naturally, a lot of us that we played with Wynton, we studied all those styles. So
right.
there wasn't really an audition process, but we had first dibs, and it was a great situation.
Could you have envisioned back then what it had become today, really kind of the elite jazz organization of New York City, or because there was no building back then, right? I mean, it was
No.
right.
There was no building. Jazz
Right.
and Lincoln Center became constituents. They became a part of Lincoln Center Inc., like the New York City Ballet, the Met, the New York Philharmonic, and then we got a piece of that Lincoln Center Pioneer. Remember they signed it. I think it was on the first of some month in 1997. Yes, it was something like that, and it was no, I didn't, but I remember Wynton talking about it in the building. They opened in 2001, I believe.
Yeah.
But when they started erecting the building and they found a location, and he had always talked about it. He had that vision to have a place that was built for jazz, not you acquire a building, but everything about the building in all three rooms, Dizzy's, the Allen, now called the Appel Room, it was designed for jazz performance. And of course, they were wise enough to put baffles and things inside of Rose Hall, so you can have an opera performance, you can have orchestras, but it was built for jazz, like Dizzy's. No bad, no sight line.
No bad seat, acoustically sounded great. Yeah.
Yes, all of that. They took all of it into, and I remember him talking about it. So I didn't know that we would see it, but as the years rolled on, it's like, we're getting closer and closer to it. And they started, it was a really good business plan.
Okay, beautiful. So how did your friendship with Wynton start? Take me back there.
I met Wynton my sophomore year in college.
Wow, okay. And you went where?
I was at Florida, A&M University.
Okay.
And he came there to do a lecture on, jazz and its role in the society and community. The university, I think the student government brought him there, but they didn't want to. The story goes, they didn't really have the money, or they didn't want to pay the money to bring his band. So he agreed to come and do a master class. He got there early in the day, and he can't drive jazz band rehearsal.
Right.
And we got a chance to meet him. I remember it very vividly because I was listening to the music of Louis Armstrong,
Right.
and a good buddy of mine, Scotty Barnhart, who's the musical director for the Count Basie
Count
Orchestra
Basie.
now.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, he said, "Man, Wynton's coming. Wynton's coming." I was like, "That's cool," but I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure he's a nice guy and he can play. But I listened to Louis Armstrong,
Right.
but I got a chance to meet him, and it was really cool. And we got a chance to play for him, and he kind of gave us a test that day. He said in the Count Basie Orchestra, they start playing the blues. Somebody in the section will come up with a riff, and before you know it, you have a tune like
That's its song. Yeah.
a lot of Basie tunes, 1 o'clock jump, all riff based, and we did that. And so I mean that was my initial meeting of him, and he got a chance to hear me play, and we stayed in touch sparsely as the year went by. Then he invited me to come to play a club with him in Fort Worth, Texas, Caravan of Dreams. I was completely unprepared because I was in college having fun.
Yeah. Were you in the Marching 100? Right? Isn't that? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 4 years. 4 years in the Marching 100. And then we had a frat band. I played in the jazz band as well, but I went there unprepared and kind of got my butt kicked and my eyes opened musically. I'm like, wow. Because, they were young cats. Wynton's only 6 years older than I. He had a couple of guys in the band my age. And I didn't really hear them in the sound check, but the night when they played, I said, oh, my God. I wasn't ready for it. I was like, man, if we weren't so far from Tallahassee, I would walk out the back of the club and walk back home. But instead, they gave me a lot of information. Check out this record. Start learning Charlie Parker. Start checking out Dizzy Gillespie and Miles. And I did some of that, but I was just really on Louis Armstrong.
Oh, okay.
And so I did that. Then he called me later. Then we were at Blues Alley in D.C. And this time I had things a little bit more, together.
Okay.
He invited me to play on a record. That was December '88. We made that record in 1989 between February and March. At the end of the session, he said, what are you doing during the summer? I said, well, I normally go home and do construction work because my scholarship didn't cover summer school. He invited me to come out and play. My first gig was June 6, 1989 at the Spoleto Festival in Charleston, and that led to a conversation we had a few days later with Eric Reed, who was in college, who was a freshman. I was in my 4th year, probably out of a 5 or 6 year program. Like I said, I enjoyed my college years. and Wynton said, talk to Wycliffe. I stayed in school for a year. Julia and I left to go on the road with Art Blakey.
Wow.
And after hearing me talk to Eric Reed, he said, well, do you want to stay out here and play? For a while, and I thought about it for all of about 10 seconds. I was like, yes. And that temporary summer job turned into my career it became the Wynton Marsalis Septet. I was the 7th member. Yeah. Then eventually Lincoln Center Jazz Orchestra.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, I want to talk about that infatuation with Louis Armstrong, because you were born in Georgia, you came up, as a musical student, would have been like 70s, 80s, right? When you were high school, middle school, or right?
High school, 82 to 85, yes.
Yeah, there you go. A lot going on musically in terms of there was the fusion stuff, there was a lot happening in jazz, kind of some of the neo-bop stuff. What attracted you to Louis Armstrong,
Exposure.
Yeah. So who's playing it in the house?
Nobody, no one.
Wow.
In my household, my father played piano. He studied classical piano. Matter of fact, he didn't listen to jazz till near the end of his life, when he could turn the radio on and hear me playing at Jazz in Lincoln Center. He knew how to play the boogie woogie and some blues, but he really, really, really loved classical music. He loved Beethoven, Mozart, Schumann, Schubert, and especially Chopin. So that's what we heard in the house growing up. And then we hear country music on the radio because I was born in a small town, rural town in Georgia. Yeah. And then we'd hear music at church, but that was it. So it wasn't until I was 14, started playing trombone at age 12, and one of my great aunt's passion, amongst the things bequeathed to the family, was a 5-record collection set of jazz music. It was 10 sides. I think it was put out by Columbia, but it was 5 LP set, and that record collection wound up at our house with a little record player, and I started listening to it, and had everything from early slave chants historically up to the modern jazz of that time, which included the Count Basie big band playing 1 o'clock or not 1 o'clock jump, one base hit or two base hit. And I remember vividly the most modern thing was Sonny Rollins playing Sunny Moon for two. It's like a quartet. But
Wow.
what I fell in love with was on the New Orleans music. There were several bands, but I heard Louis Armstrong's band playing Keyhole Blues. And during that time in high school, Kiss was the popular rock group, Parliament Funkadelic and Kool and the Gang.
Yeah.
That's what we were listening to. But this, I didn't have those instruments. I had a trombone, and I could go in the garage and play and imitate that. So that was my exposure to jazz. And all of my friends, they would say that, were in the band with me. They say, yeah, we love jazz, but Cliff, he loves that deep jazz. So in high school, if you could play do do do, if you could play
Well, Chuck Mangione, yeah,
like, that's what jazz was to us. And I remember specifically seeing a chart, a Count Basie chart in our big band folder. We called it Stage Band. And then we tried to play it, and there was that, and on the other side was an arrangement of Michael Jackson's Beat It. That's the music we were familiar with. I would listen to jazz, but what we wanted to play was something that the kids were familiar with. And I think it was a great blessing that I got a chance to have that 5-record collection set. I think I played the grooves off of it, but that was where it started. So it wasn't in our household directly, but it wound up there, and it found me, I guess.
Very cool. Very cool. And I mean, the lessons that can be learned from Louis Armstrong are timeless, and the elements of jazz that he really helped create reverberate to this day. I'm curious to a player, because you're teaching a lot of online master classes now, a player who may even be in that new fusion, I want the hippest of the hip new stuff, could learn from a Louis Armstrong, What?
Yes. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what you think, qualities, what techniques, what elements of music from Louis Armstrong could they apply really to anything?
Louis he's a total musician. Like, you can learn to do things like, if you practice enough, you'll get those things. But Louis was connected. The music came from him and his heart, and you could tell by the way that he sang. There was no difference in the way that he would phrase. If he phrased something on the trumpet or the way that he sang, it was like the trumpet was just an extension of his voice. And even though I listened to a lot of his music, I didn't really get that. I used to imitate him, singing, but it wasn't until a gig in 1991, Wynton used to hear me doing that on the bus. He said, "You want to sing a tune?" And it was a tune called Up a Lazy River. I said, "Yeah, sure." And it wasn't until I started started singing, and then even publicly, it's like people would hear my playing differently. And then I started to make the connection between what pops, the way that he sang and the way that he played. Because you can get a lot of people to be technicians, which is good. And a lot of times we think that the further we get away from what was developed in the beginning or the early jazz, the hipper it is. But the hippest thing that you can do, I think, and this is just my opinion, is to be able to play the whole history of the music. Yeah. So if you're gonna play trumpet, Dizzy's cool, Miles is cool, Freddie Kepler's cool. I mean, Freddie, all of them. But if you don't play Louis Armstrong, then I think there's something that's going to be missing, or maybe not missing in your playing, but then you don't cover the gambit. And I had a student once, I was out in Arizona, come tell me that. Trumpet player picked me up from the airport, said, "I'd like to play for you." I said, "Had a long night. Give me till 1 or 2 o'clock, get some rest." He came by and started playing, and I could tell who he listened to, because I listened to a lot of trumpet players too. And one of my favorites, like Roy Eldridge, he always played with a lot of fire. And also, Maynard Ferguson, but who am I talking about? Doc Severs. He's, I don't know, 90 years old, still sounds great.
Yeah, still, I know, it's amazing.
But you can tell that he had, and I know it personally because he's told me, that they had a humongous respect for Louis Armstrong. And that student said, I said to the student, I said, I can tell that you listen to a little Dizzy, listen to some Clifford Brown. I said, it sounds great, but have you checked out Louis Armstrong? He said, no. I said, why not? He said, and I'm paraphrasing, but he said, that's that old jazz. I said, are you referring to the fidelity of the recording because they didn't have, that technology? I said, I think you may be missing something. When you hear Louis Armstrong play, you almost automatically know it's him. When you hear Sidney Bechet play,
Yeah.
you can almost automatically tell because they had a voice just as individual as their speaking voices, and I said, I think that's a great thing to develop. I said, learn one Louis Armstrong solo. I don't know if that kid ever did that or not, but I know what it's done for me
Yeah.
to learn, J.J. Johnson, but also Dickie Wells and Vic Dickinson, Jack Teagarden, to learn, Trummy Young, and then to go through all of the schools of plunger playing from um, the earliest recorded to, today.
Right.
And got a chance to play with Al Green. I learned so much because when you build all of that vocabulary, now you have a choice. Sometimes, you don't ever want to imitate anyone because Duke
Right.
said it best. It's better to be a number one yourself than a number two someone else. And yeah, you're not gonna do that anyway. The best you can do is to come close. And if you get enough of the language of J.J. Johnson or Curtis Fuller or Bill Walters or Frank Rosolino, you're still gonna sound like you, but now you have all of that vocabulary to pull from. It's like your voice now. We didn't learn to speak by reading a book. We imitated someone, parents.
Right.
So anyway, that's kind of my spiel on that. But
No, I love it. And what you're saying about Louis is you can hear even the seeds of the most modern stuff.
yes,
It all started. Well, a lot of it did with Louis Armstrong. I mean, you can hear, to our ear, it might sound dated, but in that vocabulary is the grammar that would help create the most angular, most modern, sounding stuff that we continue here today. So that's why when people, I think, give Louis Armstrong, especially in the 40s and 50s, as bebop was coming up and hard bop was coming up and taking over, they were kind of saying that he was starting to sound dated. I think it's the exact opposite. I mean, this was the original voice that, again, was adopted by so many musicians to become what we consider modern, So
that's true. And you have to understand, just like the development of cars and vehicles, they all have wheels, they all have engines from the first car.
Yeah.
And so, without that, there'd be no cars.
Right.
And I've heard Miles say it, even though some people have given, said that Miles had a rep for kind of talking down on people, but he said no Louis Armstrong, no jazz. Now, it may have been someone else, but it was Pops. And Pops, he had those folks that he listened to. He listened to Freddie Kepler. He also listened to Bunk Johnson.
Yep.
And then, even though he was never recorded, Buddy Bolden. So it's a continuum. But if you go that far back, you have all of that in your vocabulary. It's like, okay, then you go. I mean, you can do all of that, but you also have the choice of, and when you have the command of the vocabulary of the history of jazz, it's like, you can play anything.
Yeah, man. And you play anything and everything. You play your main axe is trombone.
Yes.
You also play trumpet. You play slide trumpet and you play valve trumpet too. You play tuba too, right?
Yeah, I play all the brass instruments. I just try to stay away from that French horn.
That's very difficult. That's like playing a piece of plumbing. That thing is like 40 feet long. No, I know. And to put that into perspective for people who are listening, I mean, trumpet, trombone, and tuba, that's like at the Olympics doing the powerlifting, the 100-yard dash, and the gymnastics routine. Yes. I don't know how your embouchure, how do you keep in shape for all these instruments, man?
Well, the music, like from Louis Armstrong, it comes from inside out. When I pick up an instrument to play, I always want to make, a musical statement. And of course, you have to go through those days, weeks, months, years of hours and hours of working on developing your embouchure. But see, this is my trumpet mouthpiece, and it's I can play a regular trumpet mouthpiece, but I'll last about 15, 20 minutes. And I wasn't trying to become a trumpet player, but years ago, my manager got an opportunity at the APAP convention, and someone asked, had all these shows in a brochure that I did. They said we're celebrating the 110th year of the birth of Louis Armstrong. Does he have a Louis Armstrong church? She said yes. Now, I didn't. I played on them, but I knew the music. So, and I said, you know what? I have till next year. I had 2 gigs in France and 2 in the States. I said I should do a Louis Armstrong record,
Yeah.
or kind of not a tribute, but kind of a tribute.
Like a homage.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little homage.
There you go.
But this is my trombone mouthpiece, and remember the trumpet mouthpiece is pretty much the same. So I don't have to change my. It's pretty shallow, and I fight with it sometimes because when I set my embouchure here,
yeah,
it's the same here, but the mouthpiece is a lot more shallow. So I have to remind myself not to overblow because I fill the trombone, physical trombone mouthpiece. But so I did that record, and I was trying to decide that recording. Man, who am I going to get to play trumpet? Then I thought about it. I said, well, if I get a trumpet player, he or she,
that's right,
pretty much going to be the focus. And even though it's my record,
on a Pops record,
I'll be a sideman on my own record. I said, but I know all the solos, and I listened to a lot of Pops. I said, you know what? And I had a trumpeter, and I gave them opportunities to play solos, and for they didn't, and they wanted to rehearse, but I kind of wanted to have more of a live feel. So on one tune, like the tune they brought me into jazz, the Keyhole Blues.
Yeah,
I wanted to record that as close as I could. Never wanted to be a repertory musician, but that one, I was like, man, that's such a staple in my life in terms of being my introduction to jazz. I wanted to play the trumpet, so I played trumpet and tuba on that.
Oh, nice. Wycliffe, man, are your chops warmed up enough that we could hear a little bit of Keyhole Blues?
Maybe. So it starts off like.
Yeah, man. Hey, it happens.
Something like that.
Yeah, man. That's amazing. That's on a trombone mouthpiece. You mentioned if you're on a trumpet mouthpiece, you had 15, 20 good minutes. I'm a trumpet player. That's all I got in the tank, regardless.
It's actually a trumpet mouthpiece.
Oh, okay. But with the big diameter, like, wow.
Call it we started out. There's a guy in California named Dave Chasins. He's no longer with us, and he wanted to play trombone and trumpet. So he was the first person that kind of designed something like this. So I played one of his mouthpieces. I had an agreement that I'd do that for 3 years. Then I could develop my own. So it was a hybrid mouthpiece because it's a trumpet shank.
Yeah.
So we just called this one the Hybrid. And so anyway, that's how that came about. It's a trombone, but it's still a trumpet mouthpiece.
I love it, man. I love it. Hey, one of the other things I love about you and your playing, you do so many amazing commissions, and your writing is just gorgeous. I want to focus on 2, which I think were pretty cool. They were the silent film scores, including the one, Body and Soul, that was a silent film. It was the film debut, screen debut of Paul Robeson.
Yes.
So how did these scores work? First of all, are you a movie guy? Were you a silent movie guy? Was this
of
any interest to you?
Not well, silent movies. I didn't grow up with silent movies.
Right. Yeah.
I grew up with jazz.
Yeah.
But once exposed to it, it's like, wow, this is a pretty interesting culture. But then you have to think there was no recorded sound. There was a time that music, you can only hear music live. They didn't have a way to record it. So as technology developed, it's like, okay, well, you couldn't make movies. You had to go out into an amphitheater and see a play or something. So
Right.
when I first got the commission to do that, I think in 1999, Jazz at Lincoln Center and the New York Film Society wanted to celebrate the birth of Paul Robeson by doing that with the New York Film Society, and it hit close to home for me because when Rob Gibson was the executive director at that time, he came to me to ask if I would like to do that. The film was shot in Georgia. I'm born in Georgia. It dealt with some issues that I dealt with in Georgia. I grew up in the church, but I played jazz, and I love to play jazz. And as a young musician, there was two kinds of music. The another way of thinking at another time. There's the sacred and the secular. There's God's music, and then there's the devil's music, to put it in lay terms. So it's just like, wow, I love gospel music and I love the sacred music, but I said, this is the devil's music. The devil has some pretty nice music, and I like it.
Yeah.
This was an opportunity for me to do that. It was Paul Robeson's debut as an actor on
Right.
film, and it was a great story that taking place in Georgia, and it dealt with some of those issues. He's an ex-convict that was released from prison, and he's posing as a pastor, but he's still up to no good. And for Oscar Michaud, the filmmaker, to have the vision to put Paul Robeson in two roles, and you find out near the end of the film that it's just a dream. So when you see like Eddie Murphy and many other people playing various roles, he'll
Right.
play 5 or 6, but Michaud did that back in 1925,
Yeah.
and it was just really fun for me, and it was a great story. The three main places where the film had taken place, and the home, the church, and then what I later became accustomed to appreciating, the bar, as an adult.
Hey,
So
me
I
too, man. Yeah,
really Toast.
that's right.
The other film was called Within Our Gates, and it's one that we did Body and Soul down in Savannah at the Lucas Theater. And then the guy that was running the theater at that time, I'd heard about Within Our Gates, but hadn't really seen it. It was Paul Robeson's response, if you will, to D.W. Griffith's Birth of a
Hmm.
Nation. And Birth of a Nation, as many will probably know, it was a film that was heralded as um, a masterpiece. It was a huge success. It was shown privately at the White House. Matter of fact, I've come to learn that if you go into film school, it's one of the films that's required watching.
Right.
But what it did was it was a film that kind of celebrated the rise of the Ku Klux Klan,
Hmm.
and the people in the film that played African American folks or black folks. They it really showed American black people in a really negative light. But it was it was white men in blackface.
Right.
So Michaud wanted to do a film in response to that, but it showed all sides of African Americans. It showed all sides of Caucasian Americans. There was the good, there was the bad. There was those that were not educated, and those that were well educated. And you saw both sides of everything. So he didn't depict anyone any one kind of way. And we've only performed the film 4 times, the last time being February 21st here in Augusta. And it is really poignant to
Yeah.
me because as I watch the story, this was told back in 1920. Here it is 100 years later celebrating its release in 2020 in February, right before, COVID hits. Well, COVID's one thing. Now we're dealing with all this social unrest in the United States,
Right.
and it deals exactly with those
Yeah.
issues. And it's just time to sit down and talk about it. And I think that if we talk about things, we have a better understanding, instead of me trying to say, this is the kind of person I think you are, so this is going to be my take on you, and that's how I'm going to treat you. But I don't really know who you are, and there's something to be said about. It's like, wow, the show did this in 1920. Here it is, 2020. the same
Still
issues.
dealing with the same issues. Yeah.
Yeah, still, yeah,
Yeah.
still here. So anyway, I love doing that because there was a story, and I got a chance to put my musical spin on it. Unlike doing it with Hollywood films, you have a music director,
Right.
and
Right.
you say, oh, you got 30 seconds. I had total autonomy to
Yeah.
write what I wanted to write and create how I wanted to create. And
That's
of course,
great. And I'm hoping, soon enough, like I said, people will be able to see it again. Because yeah, it really is a thing of beauty. And while we're on this topic of commission, is there anything else you're working on now in terms of writing?
yes. Well, you mentioned "I Give You Love" is my last recording that I released. It is, and I don't know if I'm getting older or what, but I did another recording with my band last year, and normally I'm just quick on just to get it out. And it was a fun record. It's called Rhythm, Blues, and Ballad. So it's all rhythm changes, all blueses, or blues,
The
or
essentials.
and ballads. And I'm just like, and I mixed it and everything. So I mean, that's another recording project. But commissions, like I said, since I've been home, I don't want to put the camera down too far. You'll see this mess on my floor.
Same
I've
here.
gone through music that I've written. Matter of fact, I did a film score for it and a D.W. Griffith film, 3 hours, 3.5 hours, called Intolerance.
Okay. Wow.
And I was like, but anyway, so nothing new. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to come out on the other side of this because honestly, I'm not ready to jump on the airplane and get back on the road. I'm like, I'm really cool, and I know it's difficult for everyone, and we're all hurting. I mean, the gigs that have canceled. When I started adding things up, I was like, oh, because when you're in it, you don't take it for granted, but you chugging along, and it's
That's
like
your life. Yeah.
it's at a halt.
Right.
Like, wait a minute, man, and then so I'm pretty sure I'm going to write music about something in this time, and the business side of me would say, oh, let's go ahead and do this and jump on it. But I've never been moved by how much money I can make doing something. I think I've been very fortunate and that people they like the music, and or whoever likes it, they like it.
Yeah.
Whoever's exposed to it, they like it or they don't. But I learned a long time ago, you cannot, and nor will I ever try to please everyone. So I'm really enjoying my time home. So the next thing that comes out of me musically is probably going to have something to do with
Kind of a reflection on these times. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Very nice. We will await that. Very cool. Well, Wycliffe, man, I want to wrap things up with a little call and response thing. This is where we, I bounce some quick questions off you, and you give me your answer. First, though, I want to thank a sponsor real quick. That would be Blue Sound, an award-winning wireless high-res sound system that lets you play music in any and every room throughout your home. You choose music from your favorite streaming service or from a music library connected to your home network. Control where, at what volume, and when the music plays with a free Blue OS app for your smartphone, tablet, or desktop computer, and that's it. Getting the kind of crisp and detailed sound that only an audiophile grade system can deliver has never been easier. It's the perfect thing to play a little Wycliffe Gordon on. You can learn more about it at bluesound.com or by visiting our website, jazziz.com, where we have put together a Blue Sound buyer's guide. All right, Wycliffe, you ready for a little call and response?
I sure am.
All right, well, I know I said this would be quick, but this first one might not be so quick. Another reason people might know your name or might know you, even though they don't know it, you wrote the theme song for All Things Considered on NPR. Is that true?
Yeah, no, I wish I did. I arranged it. It's written.
Okay.
The tune, bum, 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 it's by a guy named Vogel. And when they called me in 1995 to do this, when it came out in 96, I was like, yeah, any opportunity to write. Because see, people remember you're playing, but once you start to develop music that you can publish, or you put your ideas down, and it's great and it's wonderful. And I did the first jazz permutations of that. And since then, I think maybe years later, the first 6 years, I think it was just my arrangements. We put a band together, and they sent me things, these things. They said, well, we got to have the dinks, ding, 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 ding.
Right.
And I said, okay. And I had it was fun, and then now you have folks like Take Six, other jazz
Yeah.
musicians, and it was a great honor to do that. But what was funny about it was it's like your coffee. You've been drinking your coffee the same way for 30 years with that
Right.
which is how long that theme had that the classical version of the thing was out. The first week they put it under, I think, the radio. There's a lot of letters came in. It's like, hey, what happened? You know, the sound changed. It was now jazz, and I think there were some folks that were just used to, you get used to something. You don't want it to change, but then eventually I think it caught on. But Bob Boylan, who called me to do that at the recommendation of Wynton, probably, it was, a fun opportunity, and I love doing it.
Yeah, a lot of people wake up with that, Wycliffe. So very cool, man.
Thanks.
Okay, like we say, you scored 2 movies. Do you have, thinking back, a favorite film that you appreciate for its film score, or a favorite movie about a musician?
That's a hard one. Because there's so many movies that are coming out now.
Yeah.
I like movies.
Well, how about your favorite movie? Wycliffe Gordon's favorite movie?
I don't know, man. This has to be between. There's stories like one that I keep coming back to is A Few Good Men. Just and
movie,
my cousin Vinny.
I love those youths, those 2 youths.
I mean, it was just the marriage of the North and the South, and just it's I like many films, but there are many great, because there are many categories, like the musical films. It could be the 5 Heartbeats, if you're talking about, but then the documentary films. There's so many that I've yet to see, but that tells these great stories of American life. And for me, even though I go into a movie, I often wonder what it would feel like to be, someone is a non-musician, because every time I hear music, I'm always analyzing. I'm like, man, I don't even know what it's like to go to watch a movie and not try to say, oh man, that music goes really well with that scene. Other people are just probably watching the movie.
Right.
But so I'd have to think about that. You'd have to give me 5 categories: documentary film, silent film, comedy, drama, and music score. So I'm not really prepared to answer.
Well, hey, we're rolling with my cousin Vinny though, because that's a great one.
Love it. Love it.
Wycliffe, what is a hobby outside of music that you've really been into?
I like to ride my motorcycle.
Okay.
If I'd have gotten one when I was in my 20s, I'd probably be, I'd probably, there'd be an obituary somewhere back then. But I have a cruiser.
Okay.
No speed bike. So, and I like to go fishing. I don't do it all the time, but because I was always on the road. And the past couple of years, I've gotten together with some buddies from college, and we would take a trip to Louisiana. This would be the 3rd year. Of course, we canceled it. They're going to go down in Florida because most of them are there. I went to school in Florida, but I'm not sure if I'm going to go, and I'm going to sit tight until COVID is remotely finished doing what he or she is doing. So, but I like to ride my motorcycle. I like to go fishing. But my real hobby is just music, man. I like all of this is I'm organizing the music that I've written over the years. And on the floor, like I said, I'm not going to show you, but I found other things. I'm like, wow, I forgot about this. So I love to write and to create music. And even though it's inside of my career, that's the one thing that's great about doing what you love.
Right.
Yeah, people sometimes say, can't wait to go on vacation. I'm like, my life's a vacation. I'll go wake up every day. I look forward to playing, to teaching most of the time. And then I look forward to composing and arranging and interacting with other musicians. So I tell, students all the time, find something that you love doing and find a way to, monetize that, because if you can make your career or become a part of something that you love to do, then you don't wake up in the morning and tell me, oh man, it's Monday again. Get up and go to work. I love it. And there is no weekend for me, there's really no holiday because every day when you're doing something you love, it kind of feels like a holiday.
That's
So.
right. That's right. Well, we'll end with that then. If people wanted to sign up for these online master classes, learn some of these lessons, where could they do that, Wycliffe?
Well, various people, because COVID has thrown us out of the camps, and some people want to do them virtually, and they'd have to make the announcements. But I'm supposed to be in Miami, so the people there probably going to know about that.
Yeah.
I'm not really offering online master folks that would normally call me to come to their school to do a master class, followed by a concert. The same way, wycliffegordon.com, WYCLIFFE at WYCLIFFEGORDON.com. You can find me there, and I'm happy to do master classes like we set this up. I think we had another time today, but it worked out.
Yes,
But I'm not really, and honestly, I'm enjoying my time at home and the time that I don't. There's so much I can do that I don't have to get up and go on an airplane. And I'm like, and that time is probably gonna go on an airplane, get on an airplane to go where I'm going. But
Yep.
I love the time that I have alone, and I do look forward to interacting in person and face to face with people again. But
As do we, man. As do we. Wycliffe Gordon, this has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thanks for chatting with me. Thanks for playing. That was incredible. And thanks for just being with us for last call, man.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Cheers to you. I'll see you backstage. I'm going to sign off with the people watching.
Okay.
Yep.
Take
So
care.
long, Wycliffe.
All right.
All right. So thank you so much to our guest, Wycliffe Gordon. Again, check out all his albums at wycliffegordon.com. He's a phenomenal player of all things brass. And if you get a chance to see him on the road, do it. Thank you so much again for watching. Again, if you like us, follow us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, sign up for our newsletter at jazziz.com. We love kind of having you for the last call. Anyway, I'm going to shut down the bar now. You don't have to go home, but you can stay here. I'm Brian Zimmerman. Thanks a lot for joining me. So long, everyone.